Welcome to the DIY Writer Show with the mild-mannered, slightly heroic host, Jeff Bacon.
Today on the DI Writer podcast, I have sitting before me an international best-selling author. She's been writing for 20 years and was first published in 2015. She's a writer of sci-fi, fiction, fantasy. She does it all. And her newest book, The Witching Vault, will be released on the 10th of December this year. So if you're looking for something to be read, pre-order it now. I'd like to introduce the wonderful Kathrin Hutson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm just happy it's the end of the week and, the weekend's coming. It's the day before Halloween and, hopefully we get some trick-or-treaters, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Never know. Never know.
Here in Wisconsin, we're a little, I'm in Wisconsin. And it's a little weird with the whole COVID thing going on. I think we're still number one in the nation, which we strive to be number one in everything. But, unfortunately, we made that list here.
There are exceptions to every goal, perhaps, I think. I think things are a little weird everywhere still.
I agree. We had to travel a little bit and went to South Dakota. And, things are just as weird, if not weirder there. So, but
oh boy,
they always are. So you have this brand new shiny book coming out.
I sure do.
Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah. All right. This is my 8th novel of my own coming out. The Witching Vault is book 1 in the Accessory to Magic series, and this is dark urban fantasy. I have been ghostwriting urban fantasy for a few years now, and never thought that was a genre I would enjoy or want to pick up until I learned that it's something I actually do very well. So I'm bringing urban fantasy into the stable of what I write under my own name, and it's really exciting. I'm basically launching this new book with what I've learned from writing so many urban fantasy novels for my clients and taking my own darker spin that exists in all of my fiction, putting it all together, packaging it up. So far, my advanced readers have been falling over themselves waiting for book 2, which is very, very exciting. So this is dark urban fantasy. I've got let's see, a little elevator pitch here. An apprentice witch with a criminal past inherits a magical bank that can think for itself, and the clientele are almost as dangerous as what's inside their safety deposit boxes.
Yeah. A little mysterious there.
It is. There's murder and snark and lots of fighting and violence.
Did you say snark?
Snark. So much.
Oh, I love snark.
So much attitude. Yeah, it is. It's the best. And urban fantasy is a great outlet for that.
So, yours is a dark urban fantasy, compared to typically what you write is just dark fantasy, and of course, there's just the light, fluffy urban fantasy.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you have your darker, more flavorful urban fantasy. Just kidding, not trying to offend anybody. But what do you see the differences between like regular urban fantasy and dark urban fantasy? I mean, what can you expect?
I would say, like, for myself personally, which I just love writing so much anyway, and probably across the board with more darker urban fantasy as well. There's a lot of violence and there is a lot of sort of that grim dark feel where, like, okay, things are getting really kind of hopeless and helpless, and what's going to happen to this main character, and there's a lot more at stake, I think, in terms of personally for the characters' development and like individual personal sacrifices they have to make. This particular main character of mine, Jessica Northwood, starts out trying to get a job after she's just been released from magical prison. So there's like a lot of really dark, I guess, emotional turmoil that comes with this as well.
Well, I love the start to that, though. I mean, somebody just released from prison, can't find or hold a job, finally gets, hey, we'd like to hire you. And she has no other choice but to do this. And she probably shouldn't have taken the job, but she did anyway because out of desperation. That just kind of sets it up to be kind of delightfully tasteful or tasty.
Yeah,
just kind of,
one of those, things that, someone normally wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But circumstances change, right? And that's a place that I've been quite a bit myself in my life. It's all in the past, all the way in the past. But
what I like about dark fantasy in general is that it flirts with horror, but it's not horror. It's kind of this hybrid between what you consider fantasy with elves and all the fae, all that kind of stuff. And then you have horror over here where you got your witches and your vampires and everything else. And dark fantasy just kind of fits in between those very nicely. So you can write something that is somewhat shocking and violent, but not be considered a horror book, but also be considered. I mean, you can actually go into either genre that you want, but you can even write be in thrillers. That genre.
Yes, if you've got a bunch of action or even suspense, if it's something like there's so much crossover there, and I love that. I love that aspect of dark fantasy as well. And I haven't ever actually really attempted to do something that was full on horror. I'm not sure why. That may be something that I tackle in the future. But I do love, getting into the really dark, gritty, like, oh, this is really awful and terrible and disgusting. It makes me so happy.
And you're so light and bubbly. That just kind of seems weird.
I know. I get it all the time. It's, the fiction is where I put all my darkness and all the things that I probably would not want to expose to the rest of the world. So,
and yet you're exposing yourself.
I guess so. I mean, as much as I can.
Oh, look, it's sweet little cat. What the hell did she
write? Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. That's how I prefer it.
You're like that neighbor that, I always thought she was really sweet. And then I read this book and I'm like, oh, good Lord, we have to move. Just kidding.
Yeah. I actually, when I was, I think I was 10, maybe, or 11, something like that. I did actually. I wrote like this tiny, short little song that I sang and, wrote piano pieces for it. I've been playing piano for quite some time. And it was a very, very dark song. So I'm this 10-year-old writing a song about, I think it was about like a girl who committed suicide to be with her brother who had passed. And like, it was really, didn't come from anything but my imagination. My grandmother lost it. I played it for her and she was like, oh, what is going on? There's something wrong. We need to be concerned. And I was like, it's a song. Like it's just pretty. Yeah. So I've always been really in tune with that darkness, and it may freak some people out. That's fine.
I can just see grandma's reaction, just like, okay, therapy now.
Yeah. It was a bit of a, okay, now we have to have a family talk and sit down and discuss this. I'm like, I promise I'm not having these thoughts about myself. Like everything's okay. I just wrote a song. Okay. So yeah. I think now, at least, my family has gotten used to it. I hope. Yeah. If they haven't, they've done a good job at
hiding it.
Yeah. Because obviously they've seen the last 20 years. It hasn't changed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jeez. Nothing like freaking out the family at a, hey, anybody want me to sing my new song? No, thank you.
No, please.
We're
trying
good.
to have a good time. Yeah.
We're good. Yeah.
Yes. I've done plenty of freaking out. It's true.
So what do you do for fun?
Oh, for fun.
For fun.
Ooh.
Besides writing.
Yeah, but that's always the first thing in my head. That is that's what I do, and it's what I do, and it's what I do. Well, I do also love to read. I mean, that's kind of a given, I would assume. And like I said, I still play piano actually and sing. I have stopped songwriting.
You gonna sing for us?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I am disappointed, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I wasn't prepared for the singing part.
Oh, we can warm you up right now if you want.
Nothing comes to mind. That's all right. I'll pass. I'll pass on the singing part. But let's see, where are we going now?
I have no idea. What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? There's the reading and the playing piano and singing. I have a 4-year-old, so a lot of the fun time stuff is done with her,
sure.
which is, can be pretty much anything. You take a 4-year-old out to do anything, and they have a blast, even when you do it, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row. And I do love hiking. So the weather in Colorado out here has been strange, with all the fires, unfortunately, and getting outside over the summer has been really difficult. We just moved here. I'm from Colorado, but we moved back here in July. And so,
of 2020?
Yes, we did move in 2020. It was interesting. Yes. And that, we made it safely here, but we didn't get as much time outside as we normally would have because of the fires and the smoke, and no good. Let's see. I work out. I enjoy yoga and meditating. That's fun. That's fun for me. Yeah. It's so easy to pare down the list of what do you do for fun when there aren't a lot of things to go out and do for fun right now. So,
you know what I thought was really funny was we'd been in quarantine. We'd been quarantined for a while. And even at, if you had to go out and buy something or whatever, they're like, 1 member per household and, so on and so forth. And they kind of loosened up here on that a little bit. And so the first time that I took my 3-year-old daughter, she just turned 3, but to Walmart in quite some time. It used to be like, we're going shopping or whatever. But we went into Walmart and she's like, this place has everything. This is wonderful. And just so excited to have gotten to go someplace other than daycare or the house.
Right.
Right. And it was just like, well, it's Walmart. I don't really see this as wonderful, but okay, I'll go with it now. Oh yeah, this place is great.
Look at all the aisles.
Oh, there's so much stuff. They have everything. It's those kind of reactions that you get when you take your kids someplace. It's just like, oh my God, wasn't even looking at it that way, but just like brand new.
I love it, and it's so easy to lose that, looking at things for the first time, brand new perspective, unless you have a kid with you, and then you're like, oh.
Yeah, but on the other hand, we kind of do that as authors, though, when we first develop that first magic system or that world, and we're looking at like, oh, everybody's gonna love this,
That is true.
And then it goes from everybody's gonna love it to God, I hope they love it, and it's like, oh man, I think I screwed it up, and okay, I'll publish it anyway. I think it's done. Everybody says it's good.
That's what matters, right?
Right.
Is that other people say it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you said you ghostwrite for people.
I do.
You do. How's that? I mean, you take somebody else's idea and you create it basically becomes your creation, and then you get to watch it go out underneath somebody else's name. How is that for you? I mean, do you feel fulfilled with that, or, I mean, how's that make you feel?
I actually love it.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah. So it's been such a huge learning opportunity for me, first of all, in that, I have written in so many different voices and so many different genres that I feel now like I could pick up pretty much anything and write in that style and write in that genre. Can't do romance, where romance is the plot. That's pretty much the only thing.
Unless it's romance between 2 dead people.
That wouldn't really be romance, then it would just be like I'll respond to each other.
No.
Yeah, well, that too.
Oh.
And you know, I have learned so much as well about what sells well to various markets. You know, what markets are larger than others in terms of readers and audience. And let's see. Right now, I'm in the process of writing book number 18 in a series for one client, and that's the most I've ever done in a series. So there's a lot to be learned, and I have, you know, sort of figured out how to rewire my brain in terms of, like, you know, there are things that I write that my heart is very close to, like the Blue Helix series, and that's, you know, those are my international bestsellers, and they came right from here. But they're very dark, and they're not very upbeat and happy, and there's a smaller realm of readers who appreciate that, right? Sure. So I have absolutely no problem with writing all these books for my clients and having them publish it under, you know, their various names, whatever they happen to be, because I get to learn and I get to improve my craft, and it is a lot more lucrative than I expected it to be in the beginning. So my husband was able to stop working and be a stay-at-home dad, and so it's just the income I bring in from ghostwriting in my own books that's supporting all three of us. Yeah, so it's an incredible goal, I suppose, to be able to have reached, and it's helping me get to the point where eventually I will be writing as much as I'm writing now, but of my own things, you know. So it's about building blocks and turning it into a business. And I have no attachments to the stories I create for my clients. I will openly admit that I do stalk the sales pages and reviews and go through them, because then I just, you know, I have my own private little, like, yes, I did such a good job. But no, I really love it, and I get to write, you know, 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. Just I write about a book a week now.
Wow. A book a week.
A book a week. Yep.
How many words do you punch out? How many words do you punch out in a day?
My average is about 15,000 right now.
Holy buckets.
Yeah. And it I used to think that anyone who said, oh, I write 10,000 words a day, and that, you know, it was actually quality and didn't need to be completely overhauled, was full of it and totally lying to themselves and everyone else. And then I got to that point and reached 10,000 words in a day, and I was like, oh man, this is possible, and I just did it. And
so how long did it take you to get to that point?
It took me about a year.
About a year.
And yeah, and it was, you know, difficult in some ways. I wonder if I would have been able to reach it faster if I didn't have a young child at the time. So, you know, it all depends on availability and making it work. But when I started out, I was, you know, committing myself to write my own books at, like, it was 1,000 words or 1,500 words a day, every day. That was my goal. And I published an entire trilogy and another book, Sleepwater Beat, in 2018 by doing that, which was huge for me. It was a huge personal goal. And then the first ghostwriting job that I got gave me 30 days. I had 30 days to write. I think it was like 80,000 words. And I just had this moment of, like, tunnel vision that was like, oh, what did I just agree to do this? And I did it. And then, you know, we found a part-time nanny for our daughter, who was, gosh, at the time, well, it's 2020 now. I started this in 2018. So she was 1.5. Yeah, not even 2. She just turned 4. Yeah. So,
okay.
And so she was 1.5 when I started ghostwriting. And then we got a part-time nanny who was fantastic. So she came over 5 days a week from like 8 to 12. And that gave me a big chunk of time in the middle of the day to focus on my writing. I started getting up at 3:30 in the morning to get extra time in the morning. And then I would write through my daughter's nap. So I was like just trying to pull time out of nowhere to make this happen. And then, for the last 10 months I've been consistently writing this much on a regular basis. Yeah. And it's been really awesome. So it's helped me learn how to write my own books faster too, which is great.
I'm totally jealous.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
It's one of those things, and I sometimes I'd love to share my experience about this and be like, yeah, it's totally possible. Like just, get into it for authors and any creative, like we don't have to sacrifice quality for quantity, I suppose. It just takes time. Takes
time, and it takes consistency.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, and it really depends on the author. I mean, I talk to some authors that it's like, I can do 3,500 words a day and that's it. And then at the end of that 3,500 words, I'm just drained. I'm just done. And then you talk to the next author and they're like, I can write, 15,000 words a day and I feel great. And tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing. And and I mean, I guess it, just kind of depends on, and being excited about what you're writing versus, dredging it, I guess would also make a.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The dredging through it is never fun. And I think probably the last thing that I ever really drudged through was one of my own pieces that I never finished because I hated it. So, like I'm lucky enough that I am able to take projects that I think are cool. And then it gets me pumped up. And then I also I may be strange in this way, but just the act of writing, like sitting on my computer, typing everything out, getting into the zone, and like everything else disappears and I'm not myself anymore. That is, I think in some ways has probably replaced other far more harmful addictions in my life. So now I'm like, well, I'm going to take it. I can get something good out of it. And I just love to actually write. I don't know if it matters what it is anymore.
Unless it's romance.
Oh yeah, no, can't do romance. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I never think about romance, so it's never on my mind.
Neither do I. So
that's and I know where my limits are. I cannot do that.
Cool beans. So what big plans do you have for Halloween?
None.
What?
None big plans.
None.
We have our next door neighbors are really into the decoration spirit. So they've got all these blow up things in their front yard. They've been up for the last 3 weeks. And all the orange lights, and they've got a blow up dragon that moves its wings, and there's a giant there's a giant minion in their backyard. No one sees their backyard, but it's in there. Well, we can see it from our windows. So we may just, dress the daughter up in her costume, which right now, so she just had her birthday last weekend. And she's a huge Star Wars fan, and her middle name is Skywalker, and she wanted a Star Wars birthday. So we got her, Jedi robe and a lightsaber and the whole thing. So we may just dress her up and walk her out to the neighbor's house and take a look at all the decorations again. There isn't really anything going on around us for trick-or-treating or, Halloween things. So maybe a spooky movie, sort of appropriate for a kid. I don't know.
It really depends on their, the kid. My 3-year-old loves, how you go into Netflix and right away it starts doing the, the preview of something. And when there's a horror flick on there, she's like glued to it. it's like, okay, I got to switch this really quick because she's 3 and I really don't want her going to daycare and talking about, who she saw killed with an axe or anything like that. Yeah, the fact that she loves that kind of stuff gives me hope for when she's a teenager.
Yes. Or older, you never know.
I've actually got an older child. She's 20 years old that we made her watch all 8. I think it's 8 of the Children of the Corn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not when she was young. I mean, I think she was 17 or whatever. And it freaked her out so much that, I mean, some of the later ones are pretty stupid, but I mean, the first couple were not too bad.
Yeah.
And she hates cornfields now. Like we'll drive past them and she's like, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop.
Blame her.
I can't, we tortured her, but that's okay. She was above the age limit where somebody could take her away, I guess. But,
Well, I would think 17. She's old enough to say, I'm done.
Yeah, she could have got.
Unless you strapped her down to the chair, and then that's.
No, there's no restraints involved with that at all. But we went for a hike with my 3-year-old. And we went to the trail went right by a cornfield. And so I had her go inside in the cornfield, just peering her head out of the stalks. I took a picture and sent it to Kenzie. And she's like, stop now. That's not funny.
Turning my sister against me. I can't look at her the same anymore. That's, yeah.
And there's one where she had kind of a goofy look on her face. She's like, that is so creepy. I'm not going to be able to sleep ever. It's like, okay, whatever.
Parenting win. Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
That's your goal. When they get older, just to embarrass them and make them feel uncomfortable.
I mean, I wonder if that'll even be possible with my kids.
Here's the thing. We have the benefit of our imagination and we can do it.
Oh, all right. Well.
Yep, absolutely.
I've been reinvigorated. Thank you.
Just friend her on Snapchat or whatever the medium is then, and just comment on her posts. Oh my God, my mom's here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, you look very convincing. Oh my gosh, that's a really good time. I need to get off with this freak. Oh, geez, who signed you up for this anyway? So your website, KathrinHutsonFiction.com, starts off with, I told you before we started recording that I just loved your website. It's just beautiful. But a touch of exquisite darkness. And it just kind of sucks you right in with the colors and everything, and then you start popping up your books, and like I said, I can't say enough about it. It's like really cool. The one thing I wanted to ask you a little bit about is Bruce Willis.
Oh yes, Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
he almost gets as much talking time as I do.
Oh, does he? Oh, okay.
No, yeah. Lots of people ask about Bruce Willis. I love it though, and that was, probably we named him Bruce Willis.
For everybody wondering who the hell Bruce Willis is, that's your dog.
Yeah, it is. One of my dogs. Dogs. And so my dream, one of my dreams for a long time was to adopt a Great Dane and name him Bruce Willis. Our Bruce Willis, which is one word, by the way, so it's not Bruce Willis like the actor. It's just Bruce Willis, just one word. It's important. He's not a Great Dane at all. I'm actually really glad because we didn't have space for Great Dane for quite some time. But he is, he's our dog. He's 5 years old. He is a German Shepherd. German Shepherd Lab, albino.
I'm waiting for Doodle at the end.
Yeah, no. It's a pit bull breed. She was an albino. I think it's called like a gator pit, maybe. I don't know.
Gator pit.
I don't know. I could be totally wrong on that, but we saw both of his parents when we adopted him, and he is the sweetest, most loving, snuggliest, dumbest dog I have ever known. So
You know, that's what you want as a dumb, snuggly dog.
I mean, yeah, if they're smart, I'm not sure how snuggly.
Well, if they're smart, they get into things that they shouldn't, or they start to figure stuff out. I've got I shouldn't say I have, my wife has a lopsal doodle.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's this little tiny dog, that not little tiny, but you know, it's a smaller dog or whatever. The skill that she has is getting out of anything. She can, like, on a pet cage, if it's got the flip open locks,
Oh no.
she can get out of that. She can climb fences.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
so if it's a, you know, any kind of a chain link fence or a woven fence or anything like that, she climbs right up and goes right over. I mean, it can be 6 foot tall and you watch her and she flips over and screws her way down. You know, I need Constantine wire on the top just to keep her into any kind of a pen.
No.
It looks a little weird around the house, but my neighbors really they haven't said much, but
let's go talk to that guy with all the creepy wire on his back.
Right, holding in what looks like a poodle, but you know, whatever. It's a terrifying poodle. But she, you know, she's up on tables. I mean, it's almost like having a cat. You know, if you leave a chair next to our kitchen counter, because we have a kitchen counter and then a raised bar that connects to it.
Okay. Yeah.
You can seat about 8 people around. Yeah, kind of cool. But she'll jump up on the chair, jump up on the counter, and I've caught her on that bar. And my 3-year-old likes to push a chair up to the counter so she can, you know, help cook or whatever. If you don't take that chair away, all of a sudden you see this lopsal doodle sitting on top of the bar. It's like, okay, you know, and she'll like eat the gum or, you know, whatever. It's just like,
you're not supposed to do it. That's why people want a smaller dog, so they can't get to like the high places, and
right,
you know,
unless they're climbers, and then it's like, oh God.
Yeah, no. Bruce Willis isn't a climber, but he bashes his head in anything, everything, all of it. You know, he's like trotting through the house, so happy, so like, yeah, go get him, and he'll turn back and look over his shoulder, and then just run into whatever happens to be there. I think he was, my husband just told me this happened a couple months ago. He was getting both of our dogs up into our truck, and our older dog Sadie is getting up there, so she has to be picked up and put up in there. And then Bruce Willis went for his jump and totally just like clotheslined himself in the head on the top of the open truck door like that, so he can jump really high. He's got that German Shepherd in him, and he just rammed his face into the top of the car, and then tried again, you know.
Of course.
But yeah, of course, and you know, he's fine. He's not smart.
And that's what makes him lovable.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, he's always, we get so many comments from people when we're out with them. They're like, oh my gosh, your dog is so beautiful. That's such a handsome dog. And he is. He's like built and muscly, and like he's got a really beautiful face. Like, yep, thank you. That's about all he's got. Take a good look. And that's it.
He is one handsome devil, just not smart.
Yeah, that's right.
So do you live by mountains then in Colorado? I mean, you got some.
Yes, we're in Arvada. That's right outside of Denver and next to Boulder. Yeah, so we have a fantastic view of the mountains. And I actually grew up in Pine Junction, Colorado, which is way up in the mountains.
Oh, is it? Okay. I never heard of that. So
yeah, it was a small little town. And at the time my dad had a log cabin that was built in 1927, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, you know, we got to run around in the mountain town with no supervision, you know, finding caves and climbing all over the place. And now we're outside of the mountains, but quick drive just to get up to, you know, some hiking. And
that is beautiful area right up there around Denver.
Really
Boulder.
Great.
And I think the only thing that really competes with it is Idaho. Idaho is beautiful territory too, but that Boulder area is just beautiful.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I actually went to University of Colorado at Boulder. So I took a 8-year hiatus from Colorado. Never thought I'd come back, but I come back and I'm like, oh well, yeah. I appreciate this state a lot more for what it has to offer.
Sure.
Just growing up, that's what happened.
I don't think well, I mean, there's lots of really pretty places around the US, but that area, I don't know, it's got something.
It does. It has its own thing. We've also lived in Vermont, California, and South Carolina. And that's since I met my husband. So almost in the last 8.5 years, we've moved quite a bit. And I actually really fell in love with South Carolina so much. I love the humidity. I love the heat. I love the saltwater air, and even when the marsh stinks really bad, I love that. And it's
there's that area of South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina that I think it's like 100-mile radius or whatever, where it's always beautiful there, no matter what time of the year it is.
Right.
And it's just like, evidently it's the perfect place to live in the United States, according to a bunch of people that I talked to.
Right.
It's like, you would never move out if you moved here. It's like, yeah, really? I'm not sure if I could handle perfect. I kind of like the the horrible winters of Wisconsin, I guess. But
do you really? The winters of Vermont are why we left Vermont.
Well, if you go up north in Wisconsin, I'm in the southern part of it.
Okay.
But the winters can be pretty, tough. I mean, right up there in Lake Superior and everything. But I came from South Dakota, and the year that we moved out here, I had shoveled so much snow that to get into our house, there was like 6-7 foot of snow on each side, and you felt like you're walking down a tunnel.
Yep.
And then the next winter that we had in Wisconsin, it's like, this is nothing. This is like the banana belt of the Midwest. What the heck are you guys complaining about? And so we haven't looked at anywhere else. But I mean, this area that I live in, it's a nice winter. It's a white Christmas type area.
Yeah.
And they don't last all that long. Whereas, back home it'd be, you never had really a Halloween costume because you had to put a snowsuit over it to go trick-or-treating.
Yep.
In April, Easter, 6 inches of snow on the ground, and then all of a sudden it goes from that to the next week it's 90 degrees out.
Well, I mean, that's nice though. Oh, you mean you're talking about in Colorado?
No, I'm talking about in South Dakota. Yeah. So
Yeah.
It goes from cold to, oh, look, it's spring, to holy cow, it's hot.
Yeah. With nothing in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had I think it was our second summer in Vermont. It was gray, wet, so cold, awful. The sun didn't come out for 7 months. And then summer started. It was the last week of June. And it was really, I didn't really truly believe that seasonal depression existed until we moved to Vermont. And then I started to understand. And like, we love it out there. It's beautiful during the summer. It's like the most incredible place to be. But winters are hard if you're not the kind of person who needs to like have light. So, and I burn so easily. I don't go in the sun. I'm very like super pale. And so I'm not like, oh, I have to go sunbathing or whatever, but just the light itself really, really got to me. Funny because I write all these dark things. I'm like, oh, bring on the darkness and the cold and the hair. I can't live it. I do not stand up to my own books. So.
You can only imagine it.
Yeah, that's it. So I can imagine the worst of the worst, and then I'm out of here.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on the new book that's coming out in December.
Thank
which is
you.
really exciting.
Yes,
you seem like you're jazzed over the whole thing and can't wait. I love the fact that it's a series. So
yes,
more to come.
There will be so many. Well, so far it's up to 5. We'll see what happens.
Oh wow!
I just put 10 fingers up, but I really
it's up to 5.
Yes, 5 times 2 divided by 2. That's how many books there are.
So do you have all the outlines written or just the concepts?
I have the like overarching, I think it's probably, I don't know, a paragraph for each book right now, just like, you know, the basics of it.
Right.
I have all the titles picked out, and I'm going about this in a much more business-like, you know, structured way, which I normally don't do, but I'm trying to, you know, meld the best of both worlds and turn this into.
Do you outline your books heavily, or do you just kind of, I'm just going to write it?
Yeah, I just am going to write it. What really does help a lot is writing beats. So it's not a chapter by chapter outline, and it doesn't give a lot of specificity, but it's, you know, 4,000 to 7,000 words, depending on the book. That's just the whole book, but with like, you know, plot points.
Right.
And who's where, who's doing what, and things always change, of course, you know, like in the process, which I love, because I can be like, oh, I just thought of this awesome thing, how I can tie all the pieces together. But for the most part, it helps me know exactly where I'm going. And so then I just write after that. But I think anything in more detail would kill the enjoyment for me, because then I already know what's going to happen.
I know there's a lot of people out there that just outline the bejeebers out of everything, and I like that to an extent, because usually you can get the beginning and where you want to end up. It's everything in between that all of a sudden kind of changes a little bit to where your outline, you know, I mean, it's a good practice to get into. I totally agree with that. I don't follow it at all.
Well, it doesn't work for everyone, and that's, you know, that's totally cool. Like I never used to outline, and I would just make it up. And I remember the first time a ghostwriting client asked me to write beats, and I was like, what are those? Like, what? Oh, just like, you know, the basic points. Like, so an outline, or I don't do that. I'll just, you know, put a couple thousand words. It's fine. Okay. But yeah, okay, I'll do it. I've gotten a lot better at that though. And with, you know, leaving that much space in between, you know, when you have just like the major points and where the action's going to happen and when the fight comes in and all this stuff, it just leaves so much more room to get into it and be like, ooh, and then and then we'll pull in this other thing, and
then all of a sudden this is where a plot twist goes, or, you know, the other thing that usually happens is, oh, this person has to die all of a sudden. Oh no, I liked them too, but it's for the good of the book. I'm sorry, dude. Gone.
It has to be done. I've killed plenty of my own characters that just, I was just like, oh no, I know people are gonna hate it, but it has to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the thing of it is you know, I usually feel like I should feel sorry for them, but I don't, because their death is worth it. You know, I mean, it's a meaningful, you know, oh, well, this is real now all of a sudden, because, you know, Margie died.
Yeah.
But, you know, somebody out there is going, not Margie, no. Oh,
please bring them back again. Yeah.
Okay, now I have to put this book down because I need to regain my soul. Oh, I connected with Margie. Oh God.
Yeah. Those to me are the best books. The ones that like where I'm like crying a little. I don't really cry when I read, you know. So if something can make me like get really sweaty and like nervous, twitchy, you know, when there's like really awful things about to happen, or if it makes me pop a tear, I'm like, well, this is good stuff right here.
Absolutely.
It's rare. And I didn't know that I could cry so intensely while writing something either until my 7th book, Sleepwater Static. It's book 2 in the Blue Helix series. And there were some scenes in there. I was going through them, and just after, you know, having like so much life experience, I don't have to be, and I know I'm only 30, but still, I don't have to be, you know, like the same as the characters. This main character is a 71-year-old woman with arthritis. So there's a few differences, but just understanding the emotions and the feelings, like and that's the most important thing to me when I'm writing anything, is that character connection and the humanity aspect, just being humans and diving into those emotions and spaces.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask you a really tough question.
Okay.
What's the darkest thing you've ever written that you looked at after you wrote it and thought, oh God, should I leave that in the book or not? Ooh, that might be too bad. Oh, and then you left it in anyway.
Great question. Okay, so this is gonna be funny because I'm talking about how I don't write romance. It's actually an intimate bedroom scene.
Oh, so the truth comes out. Okay.
It really does. So, do you want me to dive into that, or
please do. I mean, this is
excellent. We'll go for it. This was when I was writing Sleepwater Beat, and that is book 1 in the Blue Helix series, and that is LGBTQ dystopian sci-fi. So there's one bedroom scene with Leo, the main character, and Kaylee, who is another person in this group of people that have these special storytelling abilities. It's like X-Men with the spoken word. And it's like a kind of a violent scene, and kind of like a like what's going on. There's like a weird sort of power struggle, like manipulation, emotional thing, and it's very short. Like it's not a super long scene, and there's some pain and threats involved. And and then just sort of, I don't want to like give any spoilers for anyone, but it's left on this note of just like WTF. and so I wrote this out, and it was very erotic, and not in a graphic like this body part went here. Like I don't do that. But in just in like the tension of emotion between these two women, and like one of them has no idea what's going on, and the other one doesn't really want her to know what's going on. So it's like but still consensual, right? And so I wrote it, and I was like, oh gosh, this is really like more erotic than anything that I write, and I am not sure if it fits the book. I do not want to turn this into a romance. That's not like, I don't want people to think
I refuse.
I can't do it. And I was so scared that people would read this scene and think, oh gosh, she just like threw in a sex scene just because, and like, I don't ever want to throw anything into a book just because. But it was very important to the character's development, and both of them. And so I really was terrified about leaving that in there. And so while it wasn't like, super bloody or violent, it was really intense and really dark. And there's a lot of like weird energy and like emotional baggage coming in like weird places. And I think when I talk to readers who have read Sleepwater Beat about that book, that scene is brought up almost every single time. Yes, as like, oh, and this scene, like this was so intense, and like what the heck is wrong with this character? And like I would have said the exact same thing if that happened. Like, so it was well done. And I've learned that most of the time, the things that I worry the most about putting into a book, which doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's like really intense and lasts for weeks. Those are the things that you find funny. Well, I torture myself because
everybody does.
We all want to do it right, and it doesn't happen a lot to me. Not to say that everything I write is gold, but I do what I do, and I love it, and it's okay. But when I get really invested into it, I freak out, and I've learned that the things I freak out the most about are the things that readers who appreciate my books for what they are enjoy the most.
It's because it's pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
Whatever you think your little box is, and then you kind of push outside of it, and you're like, what if I do this? And then you kind of find out that, it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And it helps people who are reading it push outside of their boxes too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The same grandmother who freaked out about my super dark song when I was 10 just picked up both of my Blue Helix books.
Okay.
And is going to be reading them with her book club.
So can you just see Grandma kind of in her rocking chair going, now I remember when she wrote this song, and before you get to this scene.
Let me just tell you a little bit about how this got, yeah. I'm very excited about it though. Like I feel like the people I most want to read my books are, of course, besides like people who like appreciate it and really enjoy it, are very much people who would not be open to reading stuff like this.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, but really, like, check it out.
All your dark desires that you don't want to admit are in this book. Please read. Yes,
you don't have to tell me about it. Just experience.
Just a 5-star review would be really nice.
Hey, I'll take not 5-star reviews when they give me reasons why. Like one of the best reviews that I've gotten for Sleepwater Bee, actually, it was a 2-star international review that had great things to say about the writing style and the book, and that like, oh, it totally shows the seedier underside of life and society, but 2 stars because it wasn't happy enough, and I will be deleting it and not buying the sequel. And I read it and I was like, yes.
Well, and then sometimes you get those reviewers that, they'll 2 or 3 star you, and then they write down, here's the reasons why. And you're like, oh, and then you learn something. Yeah.
And that's, it's all a learning process. And I do love hearing the why behind, why somebody didn't like something, because it's either you learn how to make it better, or I did exactly what I wanted to do. It's just not for you, and that's okay.
It's much better than the 1 star. It says, I hate you. Oh, well, that's constructive. Thank you. Right.
You too, buddy. Yeah. See you next time. Yeah.
My book too. Hate me more. We have I'm a part of an anthology group, and we had one that came out in was it 2018, that the title of it is The Winds of Winter. And of course we all know where this is going, but
poorly timed.
A year later that announcement was made where my next book of Game of Thrones is going to be The Winds of Winter. And now it's being included with some of his books in Amazon's algorithm because it's, whatever.
Well done.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. But on the other hand, somebody 1-starred it because they said, this isn't the book I meant to buy. You can return it. You can, you could have read that it wasn't a Game of Thrones book. You could have read that the authors, I just
completely different people.
Here's an anthology with 16 authors.
Here's the one you were looking
First clue. But it's just like, whatever. You're never gonna get rid of that. But
right.
And it's like
it's part of the gig too, like
it is.
It's impossible to write something that everyone will like. It would be it would be like empty and boring, and then no one would like it. So there's just nothing, it's impossible. And I always appreciate getting constructive criticism, or like, oh, I had a problem with this because for whatever reason, and it helps to improve. And then a lot of the time as well, I'm like, well, I did this for a reason though.
Well, I think part of the thing is if you're going to be an author and you're going to publish, whether it be self-published or through a publishing house or whatever, if you're not willing to take their critique of
Oh,
throwing
absolutely.
yourself out there, this probably isn't the life for you. If you,
Absolutely.
if you can't take that and it's going to make you stay up at night and cry, yeah, maybe you want to go back and work a job or something. I just,
Yeah. Or keep doing it and grow a thicker skin, get used, like throw yourself into the fire and get used to it. That works for some people, doesn't work for other people. My biggest rule of thumb though is if my editor gives it the okay, I've done my job. Like, she's so awesome that, she catches everything. And even, if there's anything that doesn't make sense or is confusing or is like, oh, I don't know why this happens. I think probably the biggest comment I've gotten from her on anything was at the end of a book. She was like, it felt a little too abrupt.
Okay.
All right. And that was it. Like, that was it. It wasn't like a big discussion, but some people like it, some people don't. But like anything else,
Well, when you do things like that, though, you do it for a reason. It's because the story made,
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, these things are just planned out. And sometimes it's just like, this is what feels right. And this is the way my vision ends this scene or ends this book,
Right.
And I'm terribly sorry if you don't like it, but that's the way I did it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And there's my first duology, known as Children. It's super, super dark, grim, dark fantasy. It's the Jungle Book meets Kill Bill with dragons. And there's the kicker at the end.
Do you make the fantastic sounds that they do in Kill Bill when whoosh,
swap. And there's a whistle and
fantastic.
But it's so great. I've for the most part, readers of this duology have like completely loved it, and I did get one review from a reader who was very obviously upset with the way I chose to end the duology, to the point where like I think it had like it elicited a physical response in this person. And the part of the review is I've now lost all the escape that I read fiction for, because this was the saddest, most disgusting, worst ending that ruined my favorite fantasy series to date, and it's not my favorite anymore. And which I totally get. Like, I get that is the feeling that is carried across at the end of this particular 2-book opus, what have you. And I did feel bad that I had destroyed somebody's will to read fiction. And like
you probably didn't, but yeah.
Right. I think it was short-lived. And then, I had actually posted something about that review on my Facebook page. And of course I kept everything anonymous, and basically I was like, this is awesome. This is such a great review. Like, I know the things I write are not for everyone, but if I'm eliciting this kind of response and it's not, I'm disgusted by the bad quality of your writing, but in fact, because of like a crucial decision in the story that I made that brings up all of this, I was like, this is what I want. This is amazing. I don't care if it's 2 stars, like bring it.
Right.
And turned out that the reviewer was actually on my mailing list and had already previously liked me on Facebook, and they responded and were like, this is so cool that you brought this up like this. I thought you were going to hate me forever and block me from all the things, but like, this is really cool that you did this to open up discussion. And I was like, thank you. no, thank you. And that's the cool, like, I don't know, one of my favorite parts about doing this whole author thing is that, yes, I get to write great stories and people get to read it, and it's what I do. And then also there are, ways that I can interact with people just based on something I created, and open up new avenues for like, oh, you didn't think about it this way. That's cool. Or, oh, you thought I was gonna be mad and hold a grudge against you. No, actually, I really appreciate this. And like, it's fun to see people get so surprised when I just, put it all out there, and I'm like, this is great. Thank you so much. And it's fun, So if I make someone feel really awful and terrible for reading a super dark book that has very sad things happen in it, I can probably make them feel a little better if
I think the worst thing is if you made them feel nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're not making them feel something, then, okay, I didn't do my job.
Right. Then it's just meh. Exactly. And I remember very specifically when I first started out writing, that the only goal I really had in my head was to make someone feel something when they read this. Like, it can be anything, good, bad. You absolutely hated it because it was whatever, or anything. As long as somebody's felt some kind of emotion, that's the point.
Absolutely.
It's hitting certain things.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
I think this is a good place to just remind everybody that your website is KathrinHutsonFiction.com, and Kathrin is spelled Katrin Hutson, Hutson fiction, because you and I both know I screwed that up when I was looking you up.
I do exist on the internet, I promise.
Okay, I can't find you, Kathrin. Who are you, and are you legit? No, really, you're spelling my name wrong. Oh, crap. Okay, I'm an idiot.
Yep.
That's all right. That's all right. If I didn't make at least one mistake every 5 minutes, I wouldn't know I was alive.
There you go.
There
Good way
you
to
go.
look at it.
But with that, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I appreciate the time that you've given me and the time that you've given to your readers to, just get a better feeling for you. Hey. And your dog, Bruce Willis. But with that, I thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for listening. This is Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer Podcast. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Please subscribe. Every time you hit subscribe, an angel gets their wings. I really hate my job.